Do you believe in miracles? A child was once told he would never walk, but then, one fateful night, the unbelievable happened. It all started with a little dog, a quiet companion, an unexpected guardian angel. No one taught him, no one commanded him, but every day, he performed a strange action, as if he were awakening something that had been dormant inside him for months. And then, in the moment when all hope seemed lost, the boy did something that left the world speechless. What happened? Was it science, or was it magic? Before we continue, please comment and tell us where in the world you are watching this video from. And if you believe in touching stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel now, because tomorrow there will be a special story for you. Winter in the small town of Aspen Ridge, Montana, always brings bitter cold. But Jack and Emily Dawson have never felt as cold as this moment. A cold that comes not from the weather, but from the despair that gnaws at their hearts. They had a happy life. Jack was a loving family man who worked hard in a small lumber mill to provide his wife and children with a comfortable life. Emily, a gentle woman with deep blue eyes, devoted all her love and devotion to raising their only son, Leo, a boy with a smile as bright as the morning sun. Everything seemed perfect until the nightmare began. At first, Emily noticed something strange but small. Leo didn't kick as much as other babies. When placed on his stomach, he didn't try to stretch or kick like a typical 6-month-old. But then she reassured herself, maybe he's just lazy. But then, one fateful day came. While changing a diaper, Emily tried to gently touch the sole of Leo's tiny foot, a familiar movement that any baby would respond to by curling up his leg. But Leo didn't budge. Emily's heart stopped. She repeated the gesture, this time a little harder. Still, nothing happened. Jack ... Her voice trembled as she called her husband. When Jack entered the room, he saw the fear in his wife's eyes and knew something was very wrong. They took Leo to the hospital, where the doctor ordered a battery of tests. The waiting hours seemed endless. Jack held his wife's hand tightly, while Emily couldn't take her eyes off her son, who was still smiling innocently, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. Then the news struck like a cold knife. We're sorry, but Leo has a rare neuromuscular disorder. He will lose his mobility. There is currently no cure. The words tore at their hearts. Emily burst into tears. Jack clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white, trying to contain the wave of emotion that was rising in his chest. There is no cure? What does that mean? No, you're wrong. Jack stood up, his voice low with pain and anger. Maybe we need a better doctor. Maybe we haven't tried the right thing. But every doctor they saw said the same thing. Leo would never crawl, never walk, and might never stand up again. As time passed, the fragile hope was swallowed by the harsh reality. Jack threw himself into his work. He worked day and night, as if he worked hard enough, he could somehow atone for his inability. And Emily? Every night, she cried quietly in Leo's room, holding him close, whispering prayers she wasn't sure she believed anymore. Leo had changed too. He didn't laugh as much as he used to. The cute babbling sounds of the past had turned into long stretches of silence. He just lay there, motionless, staring at the ceiling, as if the world had forgotten he existed. They tried everything: acupuncture, physical therapy, and even strange folk remedies. But nothing changed. Despair settled over the family like a never-ending darkness. There were moments when Jack wondered, if Leo never walks again? Can we accept that? But deep down, he knew the answer. No, never. Emily did too. But what were they to do? Have you ever felt that way? That feeling when you've tried everything, but life still cruelly closes the door on you. That feeling when hope slowly fades, when you start to believe that miracles only exist in fairy tales. That's what Jack and Emily are going through. But what they don't know is that miracles are coming, just in a way they never expected. That all changes one fall day when Emily's mother, Margaret, shows up with a special gift, a golden retriever puppy. You think a dog can help us now? Emily laughs bitterly, quickly wiping away the remaining tears from her cheeks. Margaret says nothing, just gently places the puppy in Leo's arms. And what happens next leaves everyone stunned. For the first time in months, Leo laughs. The boy reached out to touch the dog's soft fur, his little eyes shining like the dawn after a storm. Jack and Emily looked at each other. For the first time in months, they felt a glimmer of hope. Are miracles real? No one knew that the little dog would do more than they ever thought possible. No one knew that he would become the only light in their darkness. And no one, including Jack and Emily, could have guessed that a true miracle was waiting for them. Do you believe in miracles? Please continue to follow this story. And if you find something in this story that touches your heart, please support us by giving this video a like, because sometimes you too can be a miracle in someone's life. Winter in Aspen Ridge was getting harsher. Cold winds cut through the gray sky, snow piled high on the roofs, and inside the Dawson family home, the mood was bleaker than ever. Emily still woke quietly every morning, making a cup of coffee that she rarely finished. Jack still buried himself in his work, avoiding the painful reality. And Leo? He lay there, motionless, as if time had stopped for him. All hope was lost. But sometimes, miracles don't happen the way we expect. On Leo's first birthday, his grandfather, a man with experience but loving eyes, entered the house, holding a small basket. Inside, a golden-haired golden retriever puppy was curled up, its round eyes looking around with endless curiosity. Jack was stunned. Emily's eyes widened in surprise. Then she shook her head. "Dad, we can't have a dog right now. We can't even take care of ourselves." But Grandpa just smiled and bent down, gently placing the dog on Leo's lap. It seemed like a normal moment, but then something strange happened. For the first time in months, Leo made a small sound, a giggle. The little boy reached out his tiny hand, gently touching the dog's soft fur. Cooper, that was the name Grandpa had given him, wagged his tail excitedly, licking Leo's trembling little fingers. Emily was stunned, her hands shaking as she covered her mouth. Jack fell silent, his heart suddenly feeling warm in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. This wasn't just a dog. It was the first thing that had made Leo feel anything in months of silence. From that moment on, Cooper never left Leo's side again. When Emily laid Leo down in the crib, Cooper gently jumped up, resting his head on his belly like a silent protector. Every morning, Cooper gently licked Leo's immobile little feet, as if trying to wake them up. When Emily cried out in the lonely nights, Cooper pressed his head against her feet, as if to say, "Don't give up." Do you believe in the wordless connection between humans and animals? Because to Cooper, Leo was not a disabled child. He saw something that no one else saw, a glimmer of light. But what the Dawson family didn't realize at the time was that Cooper wasn't just there to comfort them. He was there to change Leo's fate forever. One night, Emily woke up to the sound of Cooper's soft cries in Leo's room. She rushed into the room. Cooper was standing by Leo's bed, eyes on him, his whole body shaking. "What's going on?" Emily moved closer, and then she froze. Leo was moving. At first, it was only a small movement. Leo's toes twitched slightly, but to Emily, it was a miracle. She choked up, calling Jack to wake him. He rushed into the room, his eyes filled with wonder and hope. Then, as they watched, Leo moved again. Cooper leaned forward, licking the boy's feet as if to encourage him. And then the next miracle happened. Leo grabbed Cooper by one ear, his tiny hand gaining strength for the first time in months. Jack knelt beside his son, his voice choked. "Son, can you feel it?" Leo didn't answer, but the boy smiled. Laughing, as if for the first time in his life, he felt truly alive. How could a little dog make this change? Why, after so many months of hopelessness, did Cooper's presence spark a spark in Leo's body? Was it love, connection, or something deeper that science can't explain? The answer remains a mystery. But Jack and Emily know one thing for sure. For the first time in so many days of suffering, they had hope. Do you believe in miracles? If this story touches your heart, don't hesitate to like this video. Because sometimes, just a small moment can change a life forever. Night fell over the town of Aspen Ridge, and snow covered every roof, creating an eerily peaceful scene. But inside Leo's small room, something magical was about to happen. A moment no one could have expected. A moment that Jack and Emily would remember forever as the beginning of a true miracle. Cooper, a small golden-haired dog, had always been obediently lying next to Leo every night. But tonight, he couldn't keep still. A strange feeling of unease, Emily woke up to a small whimper from Leo's room. She looked up at the clock, 2:37 a.m. Outside the window, the pale moonlight bathed the bare branches of the trees, and in the silence that could hear her heartbeat, Emily felt that something was wrong. She got out of bed and quietly walked to her son's room. The door was slightly open. The soft light from the nightlight fell on Leo's little face, who was still lying as usual. But Cooper was different. The dog was pacing back and forth, rubbing against Leo's crib, whining as if trying to wake him up. "Cooper, what's wrong?" Emily whispered. But Cooper didn't stop. He jumped up into the crib, gently nudging Leo with his head, then barked softly, an urgent but not too loud sound, as if he was afraid to wake the world, but was determined to wake Leo up. A mother's instincts kicked in. Emily hurried to the crib. And then, the unbelievable happened. The moment that changed everything, Leo, who had been completely motionless for months, suddenly frowned. Emily was stunned. Had she seen it right? Or was it just a hallucination in the middle of the night? But no. A few seconds later, one of Leo's toes moved slightly. Emily's heart stopped in her chest. She gasped, feeling like she was dreaming. "Jack! Jack, come here!" Her voice trailed off in shock, her hands shaking as she shook her husband. Jack woke up, leaping out of bed and running into Leo's room. When he saw his wife's panicked but radiant face, he felt his heart beat faster than usual. And then he froze as he looked at his son's crib. Leo moved again. This time, even his little feet moved, as if he were trying to respond to something, some invisible energy he had never felt before. Cooper wagged his tail harder, his eyes filled with excitement. He gently touched Leo's foot with his nose. and for a moment, it seemed like there was a magical connection between the boy and the dog. Then Leo raised his hand, slowly, awkwardly, but trying to reach Cooper. For the first time in 6 months, Leo chuckled. That little laugh was soft but louder than any sound Emily and Jack had ever heard in their lives. Is a miracle real? Emily collapsed beside the crib, tears streaming down her face. She had prayed every night for even the smallest chance that her son would move again. But she had never expected that miracle to come from a little dog. Jack, the strong man who always tried to be tough, could not hold back his tears. He knelt, placed his hand on Leo's small hand, and felt for the first time in months that his son was coming alive again. But the question remains, why? Why is this happening now? Did Cooper sense something that humans cannot? Was it unconditional love, the connection between two pure souls, a boy who had never walked and a dog who had never known despair, that created this miracle? A story without an explanation. The next morning, they took Leo to the hospital. The doctors were amazed to see that the boy had a response in his legs. What they had once said was impossible was now happening right before their eyes. They examined, they tested, they studied, but no one could explain why Leo could move again. A doctor shook his head, looking at Jack and Emily. There are things in medicine that we cannot explain. But whatever it is, your son has a new chance. Jack and Emily looked at each other, then at Cooper, the little dog, sitting right at Leo's feet, as if he had never left. They didn't need an explanation. Because sometimes, miracles don't come from science. Miracles come from love. What happens next? Will Leo continue to recover? What happened that night? Do you believe that love can create extraordinary things? If this story touches your heart, please help us share this video. Because sometimes, a small act can spread faith and miracles to someone out there who needs a ray of hope. The morning after the fateful night, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the window, a miraculous change began. Emily woke up earlier than usual, not because of anxiety like the previous days, but because of a feeling she had not felt in months: hope. She walked into Leo's room, and as soon as she laid eyes on her son, she knew that everything had changed. Leo was no longer the lifeless boy lying motionless like before. He was lying there, his eyes brighter, staring at his mother with curiosity. His small hands moved slightly, as if he wanted to reach out to the world around him again. But what stunned Emily the most was that Cooper was still there, standing right next to the crib, his eyes filled with anticipation. From that day on, a strange habit had formed. Every morning, as soon as he woke up, Cooper would gently touch Leo's feet, then look at him patiently. On the first day, Leo only curled his toes slightly. On the third day, the boy could lift his paws a little. On the seventh day, Emily and Jack watched in disbelief as Leo tried to gently kick Cooper's belly, as if it were a game between the two friends. Every time Leo made a small improvement, Cooper would jump up, wagging his tail like crazy, barking happily as if cheering him on. No one had taught Cooper to do this. But perhaps he knew something no one else could see. Leo could recover. One winter afternoon, Jack decided to try something he had never dared to think of. He placed Leo on the soft carpet and sat across from his son. Cooper, as usual, sat beside him, his eyes never leaving Leo. "Son, try crawling to Daddy," Jack said, his voice shaking, not from fear, but from not daring to hope too much. The room fell silent. Emily held her breath. Cooper leaned down, gently nudging Leo's arm with his nose as a word of encouragement. And then, the unbelievable happened. Leo leaned forward, using his strength to push himself forward for the first time in almost a year. Jack gasped, Emily burst into tears, and Cooper, he wagged his tail wildly, jumping up and down with joy, as if he understood the extraordinary nature of this moment. Jack and Emily rushed Leo to the hospital immediately. The doctors ran a series of tests, and what stunned them the most was that Leo's nervous system was gradually recovering. But how could this be? An old doctor, who had been following Leo from the beginning, shook his head in amazement. "We have no way to explain this. He shouldn't be able to move anymore." A young nurse smiled, looking down at Leo. She pointed to Cooper, the small dog sitting quietly at the boy's feet. "Maybe science can't explain it, but one thing is for sure. Love can work miracles." Emily squeezed Jack's hand, tears rolling down her face. She didn't need any other reason. After weeks of practice, with Cooper by her side, Leo began to push himself up, then stand with Jack and Emily's support. But then one day, before anyone could prepare themselves, the most amazing thing happened. Jack was standing in the living room, Cooper lying next to Leo as usual. Suddenly, Leo let go of the sofa. The boy stood there, no one supporting him, no one holding him back. Cooper still watched silently. Then, as if by reflex, the dog took a step back, his eyes filled with anticipation. Leo watched, the boy giggling. Then he walked away. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. The room was filled with shock. Emily clenched her fists. Jack could barely breathe. Then Leo laughed, took another step, and ran into his mother's arms. Cooper jumped up, barking loudly as if he had known this was coming. And in that moment, Jack, Emily, Leo, and Cooper knew their lives had changed forever. No one could explain why Cooper had such an impact on Leo. But perhaps the answer lies not in medical books or scientific studies. Maybe sometimes the most wonderful things in life come not from what we can explain, but from what we can feel. Love, connection, faith. Cooper is more than just a dog. He is a guardian angel, a companion, a guiding light, a miracle the Dawson family never dreamed possible. Leo has walked. But can he run and play like other children? Cooper has helped Leo stand up. But is he destined for a greater mission? The journey is not over yet. And what happens next will be more magical than you can imagine. Do you want to know what happens next? From the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank you, who took the time to share this emotional journey with us. Thank you for listening, feeling every moment, every beat of Leo and Cooper's story. Thank you for opening your heart to believe that miracles do exist, not always in science or logic, but in love, compassion, and the small but extraordinary things. Life can be challenging. There will be times when you feel lost, and days when you think there is no hope. But remember, even in the deepest darkness, just a small ray of light can change the world. So, what is the biggest lesson from this story? Perhaps it is the power of connection. A small dog can change the fate of a child. A small gesture can lead to a miraculous step. And a story can inspire millions of people around the world. What do you think? If you had to rate this story from 0 to 10, how much would you give it? If this story has touched your heart, like it so that more people have a chance to touch this miracle. And if you believe that a small action can change the world, share this story to spread faith and positivity to millions of others. But wait, this is not the end. There are more thrilling, more touching, more inspiring stories ahead. Stories that once you start, you won't be able to stop. Are you curious? Do you want to continue exploring another story that will make you cry, make your heart flutter, and make you change your perspective on life? If so, catch the next story right on your screen. And who knows, the next story might be the one you need to hear most in your life.